Voters' voices were loud and clear in electing Donald Trump. But some Democrats are playing like they just can't hear the more than 75 million people's collective voice. Two Democratic governors, in fact, are handing out a playbook for building a wall of resistance against Trump. So, they do believe in walls? They gave it a fancy name. The Governor's Safeguarding Democracy Initiative is what they're calling it. J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, Jared Polis of Colorado, leading sanctuary states, and they are now fighting Trump.
This is just about responding to concerns that governors will have about dealing with what seems to be an onslaught from the new administration.
I think it's very important that we double down on defending our small d democratic institutions, making sure that elections in the future, decisions of the courts, the rule of law, continue across administrations.
Other Democratic governors and attorneys general in California, Washington, Arizona, Minnesota, New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey are promising to push against Trump, a resistance. And some Democrats say this is a perfect example of why they lost the election.
Clearly, there's a disconnect with the party elite versus the everyday Democrats who are working, trying to get by, trying to raise their families, and trying to go to work every single day. We know that that messaging from the Democratic Party's elite, glitterati, failed miserably this 2024. And to think that you can keep replicating that same message and get a better result is just the definition of insanity.
Wow, the glitterati. Power panel now. Jeremy Hunt, Veterans on Duty chairman and a former Army intelligence captain. Mark Penn, CEO of Stagwell. Gentlemen, great to have you here. Mark, when you hear about the glitterati being a louder voice than the voters in your party for that point of criticism from that Democratic leader, what do you say?
Well, I think you have to look at the election returns, and it is interesting. The Republicans won working and middle-class voters. The Democrats won those making under $30,000 and those making over $100,000. So the party does have to remake itself if it's going to have a chance at a comeback, and it's going to have to regain the trust of working and middle-class voters, which a lot of the policies obviously lost that trust. And look, one other thing, these governors, many of them are running for president. They're going to be catering to the Democratic base, or what they think the Democratic base is going to look like 4 years from now or 3 years. Of course, it may or may not be in that same kind of mood that it was.
Well, look, Jeremy, it does seem a little odd to me that they would be focusing on things like resisting Trump rather than trying to make life better in their own states.
Yeah, I mean, look, Harris, Donald Trump broke this Democrat Party. I mean, they are in a full-blown identity crisis right now. You look at Latino voters have left them. Many black voters are starting to leave them. You look at the working-class voters have left them. They don't know what to do. And yet you do have some Democrat leaders who are, you know, a little bit more introspective, saying, okay, what are we doing wrong here? But a lot of them, like these two governors, are basically doubling down on the same failed message that lost them the election. I mean, you wonder at what point are they going to come back to reality and actually start talking to people again? I mean, and then it's just also so tone deaf because these governors, I mean, as you mentioned, I mean, these are sanctuary states. They care more about illegal immigrants than they do actual American citizens. These are states that they had lockdowns. I mean, they're talking about safeguarding democracy when they locked down their states, trampled on many fundamental rights during the COVID lockdowns. Crime has gone rampant. I don't think these are the greatest messengers for the Democrat Party right now.
Look, if you're a donor, big or small, and you see that Kamala Harris's campaign went into debt, paying Beyonce and many others, I've listed them out many times on this show, the bill was mighty. You got to pay that bill. And now the campaign is in debt. In fact, at 10 o'clock on last Tuesday night, or Tuesday before last, during the election that they knew was sliding away, Democrats were still sending out on her behalf fundraising notices. It's a mess on that end, too. And they raised $1 billion. All right, sadness, anger, Monday morning quarterbacking, Democrats still reeling from VP Kamala Harris's drubbing and Trump's clean sweep of all 7 of the swing states. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
I think it's definitely clear that the economy, inflation, and to a lesser extent, issues connected to the border played an outsized role and how many voters made their electoral decisions, particularly as it relates to their support for the former president.
And you know this guy can't be quiet. Democratic strategist James Carville.
We have no legislative power, we have no executive power, we have no judicial power. What you've done ain't worth. All right? Get your head around that. In all of the Washington-based Democrats farting around, going to wine and cheese parties and talking about how misogynistic racism, get your out of Washington and go work on a 2026 campaign and do penance to make up for your arrogance and stupidity. This stuff is like smoke on your clothes of a fireplace. You can't wash it off. Vice President Harris, and then candidate for President Harris, was kind of enamored with some of these, quote, exotic, unquote, positions.
Wow, we always engage the bleep machine with him, but between all of that, Mark, he's preaching some words that maybe your party might want to hear. What stands out to you?
Well, look, first of all, I think that the last campaign emphasized celebrities and identity. And you really want it to be about substance and issues. And from my point of view and my belief in the way politics should be, substance and issues are really going to be what win campaigns. And I think they did in this case. And as to Carville, look, his last election was the '94 congressional election. Bill Clinton had gone too far to the left. We all brought Clinton back to the center in his second term, and that really renewed a balanced budget, welfare reform, crime bills.
I get it. I get all that. But 12 of the last 16 years have been with your party, and it's going to take some time to fix what's broken, I would imagine. Trump's going to try to do it, and if he succeeds, it could be 8 years of Republican control or more. Jeremy.
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel bad for people like Carville. I mean, he's just howling at his party to, please, we got to talk to, real everyday American voters. But instead, the Democrat Party is just mired in this identity politics and this kind of wokeism that's taken over their party. And what I've realized now is that not only is there just really a lack of no willingness to really engage those type of voters, they also just struggle to even just to have the right vocabulary to speak to everyday Americans. I mean, even when I was at Yale Law School, a lot of the students, I've realized, all they know is that this kind of vocabulary of white supremacy and white privilege and institutional race. I mean, they don't really know how to talk to everyday Americans who don't use those words.
That's because they don't see them.
Exactly right. They have been siloed away. That's exactly right.
All those groups of people, those people have first names too. Like, as Mark pointed out, it doesn't have to be about your hair texture and the color of your skin. It could just be who you are and your circumstance and how can we help. Gentlemen, always a great discussion with you. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.